Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here today looking at Costa Rica, a design by Matthew Dunson and Brett Gilbert, in which 2 to 5 players set out to explore Costa Rica. Sort of like these people where you're looking off in the distance and you're saying, I see 2 tiles. Do I want those tiles? No. What about you? No? No? Well, let's go further. And repeat many times. That's the short version of how to play, but how does this really work? Here are the components for Costa Rica, with the country being transformed into an island of forest, river, and mountain spaces that are randomly assembled at the start of the game. Not all of the tiles are used, so you won't know the composition of what's on the other side of those tiles. Each player has 6 explorers, and those explorers start at the corners of Costa Rica, this new hexagonal land. You have player aids and the player colors that you can use to know the points for collecting things and the risk and benefits of turning over certain types of tiles. What you're trying to do in the game is collect as much as possible, but you are trying to both maximize certain species and make sure you get one of each of the 6 animals. If you do that, then that will give you the most points. On a turn, whoever has this token is the expedition leader, and they must choose one of the expeditions in which they have a presence, which at the start of the game is all of them, and they turn over a tile that is adjacent to their expedition. And the forest all have monkeys and beetles, with beetles appearing about 50% as often as monkeys. Okay, rivers and mountains we'll get to in a moment. You turn over a tile and you say, either I'll take it, and if I take it, I then remove that tile, remove my figure, and move everyone else where that tile was, or I pass. I don't want that. Who wants just one monkey? Ridiculous. And in turn order, everyone else can take it or pass. And traditionally, this could take a while if people are not paying attention, but that is a problem with the players and not the game. You just usually just do around the table and everybody just goes pass, pass, pass. Okay, flip over something else. A river. You got these iguanas, or the rare creature is a frog. Take it or pass. Pass, 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 pass. Okay, let's turn over a mountain to show that. A toucan. Take it, pass, pass, pass. All right, if I take it, then I'm out. Everyone else starts here. Okay, next player goes. If it's the purple player, they can again choose any of these. Purple, let's say purple explores more here. Flip over, iguana, everyone passes. Another iguana. A toucan with another toucan and a mosquito symbol. And this is a threat symbol. And the threat, similar to Diamant, another fantastic push your luck game, the threat, if you turn over one of them, is not bad. It's a buzzing of mosquitoes in your ear, right? Not much going on here. So maybe you press on. Oh, more toucans. The risk of turning over a threat token is based on the type of landscape that you're looking at. If you have mountain tiles, 50% of them have threat tokens. If you have water, 1/3. If you have the forest, 1/6. The benefit of turning over these riskier tiles, though, are that 3/4 of the mountains have 2 animals shown on them, either a toucan or a cheetah, or some type of cat. The water only have half. The forest 1/4. So you're trying to collect large sets of things. If you continue and don't turn over a second threat, then you take all of these tokens and you're out of the game. You have also killed all of these people. They now have no land next to them, so they can't do anything. They have nowhere to explore and are just out of the game. Along with red and yellow, who you took on this path here and then stranded at some point. So, at some point, red or yellow should have jumped in and taken those tiles before they let purple get away with everything. However, red and yellow players don't actually exist in this example, so they can't do that. We go on with red. Turn over a token, turn over a token. We'll continue, we get a threat, and let's hope we get another threat. Oh, we did, so we can now do an example here. The threat tokens, tiles, are removed from the game, and the red player gets whatever remains and must go home crying with those examples. And everyone else again starts here. The game continues until all the tiles have been revealed or everyone has claimed all of their players. Then you count up the points with a pyramid scoring system based on what you've collected. So 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 7 tiles is worth 1, 3, 6, 10, up to 28 points. And if you get all 6 animals, 20 points for bonus for that, and whoever has the most points wins. And there's an overview of Costa Rica, which I played 10 times now on a press copy from Mayfair Games with 2, 3, and 4 players. And as you can tell from the description, I did not lie in my introduction when I intimated that the gameplay was straightforward. Flip over a tile, pass, 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 flip over a tile, pass, 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 continue until someone takes the tiles or until you return over 2 threats. And the risk of those threats turns the game a little where you have the active player against everyone else. Because of course, if that second threat is revealed, the active player must take them after throwing away those tiles. Sometimes that active player will turn over a threat token first thing. What happens then? Am I going to take it and get out? Am I really going to just be satisfied with 1 tile? No, I'll go again. Oh, second threat. I get nothing. That happens sometimes in a press your luck game, and you just have to accept that there is the risk of that. You know, that could happen. But you know that those 2 are going to get thrown out. So everyone else keeps that in mind when they're trying to determine what they can get. Or, hey, no, I'll pass. You just keep going. I don't think you like what's there, so maybe you'll die. I'll just keep that hope in mind that you will perish. I don't really want that. I don't want you to get it too. So we'll press on with that. That's a lot of the nature of the game. The other real element that comes into play is jockeying for position on the board and trying to cut people off, which some people are not aware of. I've played multiple games with the same people, right? Range of players from 7 up into the 40s, 50s, whatever it is. And some people just are not paying attention as you do something, you go on an expedition, I take some tiles, I leave other people there, and then I'll use some other expedition that I'm in to just swoop around them and cut them off so they have access to, I don't know, 3 tiles for 3 players. Oh, so sorry for you. But that can happen. Someone might want to fall on the sword and take that expedition before I cut them off completely. But if those 2 expeditions have separate people in it, right, then no one else is going to do that. So it's an interesting dynamic that comes into play where you're definitely trying to work people over. Or if you are alone, all alone now on an expedition, but I'm part of this expedition as well, I'm going to lead it off in another direction to try to leave fertile ground that I can have all to myself. And sometimes you can have giant turns where you just keep flipping and flipping if you're all by yourself. Flipping and flipping and flipping. We did 2-player games where my opponent flipped over a total of 14 tiles before hitting a second threat and just swooped in 12 tiles at once and ran away with the game. It's crazy. You have massive swings like that with a 2-player game because you collect way more tiles than you do in a 3-player game and more than that than you do in a 4-player because everyone gets out at a certain point. I know that maybe I'm going to get 3 tiles out of this. Maybe. So do I want these 3 or do I want to risk someone else gonna take it instead? What am I going to get left at? Where are all my other pieces on the board? Where are the other expeditions going into this area? It's all fairly straightforward. It gets a little play, though, as you start moving people around and trying to cut people off, and as you work to prevent people from collecting 6 animals. If you can keep someone from getting those 6, then you keep them from 20 points, which is a huge percentage of your score in a game with 4 players. Probably 5 as well. I haven't tried that yet, though. But 2 players, we had a high score of 130. With 4 players, the high score is like 50, 60. It's way less, and that will include a 20-point bonus for getting those 6 different types. You really want that. So maybe you'll take something that someone else wants, that you think they want, in order to keep them from getting that set. But of course, you don't have that many guys to throw away, taking stuff that you don't really need. So there's all these different things pulling you in different directions, and that's the nature of Costa Rica. Oh, one other thing to mention with Costa Rica relates to the box size. This is a standard box size for the industry. It's not particular to Lookout Games or Mayfair. Very standard size. And box sizes often are used to sort of reinforce a price point that a publisher is releasing a game at. Based on the components in a game, the artwork, the development time, the royalty rate, all sorts of issues, they're going to have a particular price point, and they think they can sell the game at that price. They think it's worth that much. I usually don't get into whether a game is worth the cost or not, because that's not up for me to decide. That's up for you. You look at the game, you look at the gameplay, you look whether it fits you or not, how many times you think you're going to play, all these sort of issues, and you're going to decide whether you want to get a game or not, right? Maybe you borrow someone else's, you try it out, you figure out all this type of stuff. That's irrelevant to me, not interesting. One thing that does matter, though, is looking at this and realizing that, well, what's actually in the box, once you punch it all out, well, you have an 8-page rule sheet, 4 in German, 4 in English, and then once you punch everything out, it all fits in a very small section of the box. All right? So the components come on 6 or 7 punch boards, about yay big, which are all just tiles and player aids. You punch all those out, and then you put everything in the box along with the bag of wood components, and it all looks very tiny. Well, I don't begrudge publishers for publishing in particular sizes because, again, they're trying to fit a particular price point. They're trying to standardize their box sizes because it works better with inventory and managing and shipping and all these sort of details for what they're trying to do, as well as to present games on shelves. I actually have spoken with retailers, and they talk about how they give feedback to game companies about how they want boxes to be a certain size based on the price point of the games in order to have a certain presence on the shelf. You don't want to have a $60 game that's this big, right? People are going to look at that who don't know about the game or the gameplay, and they won't even look at it. They'll just be like, whoa, I don't want to spend that much. Whereas if you get a bigger game with a bigger box, you'll accept a $60 price tag, even if the components would have fit in a smaller thing. Now, of course, is this a trick? Yes and no. It is both a trick and not a trick. It gets you to look at something that you might have been interested in that you wouldn't have looked at otherwise. That's why publishers put artwork on the box for the most part, because, of course, they're trying to get you to look at things. They think this is going to be appealing to you. This is part of what's selling it, to get you to play the game. And what the actual game gets packaged as, in the end, doesn't matter. Once you bring that game home, you can do whatever you want with it. Why not? Well, I've had box unbiggening videos before. Let's do another one. To start, you have to first determine what you think the ideal size of the box is going to be. You take all the components and you figure out how things are going to fit. Now, I initially, when I first started playing around with this, of course, I just took them and I just scatter all the pieces in the box and just left them there. It didn't matter how they fit. I'm not going to bag these tiles because they're tiles. They're going to bounce around anyway. But you can take all the components and try to fit them like so and like so. Maybe put a few more down here. Take the wooden components, take the player aids, and then figure you're going to fold the rules down, maybe a quarter of the size, and wrap it around here. And the size of the box then will be pretty much just a little below here. The problem with that is that, well, you're stacking things pretty specifically. It takes a little while to do that. Is there an easier way to do this while still preserving the goal of unbiggenating a box? And there is. What if we put the tiles like this? Then they're all stacked, relatively organized. We can figure the wood bits will go right here. These will go on top. 2 on one, 3 on another. The rules fold down about a third of the size. And with that, we're looking at a box that comes to about here. We're going to have to cut the bottom of the box as well as the top, and you try to cut them the exact same distance. Whatever distance you're cutting this way, you're also going to be cutting this way, just to make sure that things fit together. Now, what happens when you unbiggen a box is you're going to lose some of the nature, the stability of the box itself. Usually when you pick up a box, let's see, this will do it. It sort of opens slowly. It's got this vacuum seal to it based on the tightness of how it's made, and it sort of, it holds together somewhat. And I've noticed that once you start shortening boxes, they do not hold together quite as well. That just does not happen. But you're making a box that's roughly 1/3 the size of what you started with. And if your shelf space is precious, well, then you just go ahead and do it anyway. And now the rules, we're going to fold to 1/3. It's a 10-inch rule. Haha. Once we fold the rules, figure out that'll fit perfectly, I think, possibly a little tightly, in the box that we're going to make. Now, let's set this aside for the moment. Let's start with the box top, which normally I do not start with the top. But in this case, we got a nice idea for how much to actually take off. And we measure this, 7 1/4. Okay, we have initial lines here. Now, one issue with this is I cannot just cut completely all the way around, because then I will have 3 sides but no 4th side on the box. So what you have to do is cut down these areas here and then figure out the height and measure out along the bottom here, that distance of the height, cut across that way. And then we'll make a flap and fold it up. That's the goal anyway. We'll see what happens. And we got this, the height of the box. You have cut marks on the sides. You got a cut mark across the bottom. Now you want to cut on the inside corner here. Okay. Now, don't just take this and try to fold it to make an edge, because this will not fold smoothly. You might bend in the middle, it might fold up in ways that you don't want. So, let's first score a line across here. See how close we are to making this work. This lip is just a little bit taller than the box itself, but better taller than smaller. I'll hone this down. Now the least glorious part, taping the edges of the box. Time to start cutting the box lid to the same distance as you did the box bottom. You need to measure the box top separately from the bottom, because sometimes the lid will be slightly taller since it's covering a bit more area. Got a lot of fuzz along the edge here, but before cleaning it up, let's see whether this is actually at the right height. And I taped everything up, and you get the moment of truth. Let's fit in. Let's fit in. There we go. Costa Rica at 1/3 the size. And here we go. Now we have a smaller, more compact Costa Rica with a bit of the front cover, with one side of the box destroyed. Hey, but the name is here and the name is here. I can put it up on the side. You just have this on the back. You can see it fits pretty tightly around the corners here. Does not have quite the same vacuum seal as it did before, but it all fits nicely in the box. And this can just go in the recycling bin.